Thank you for tuning in and listening. We are delighted to welcome you to the podcast of Fiona Arrigo, founder of the award-winning Arrigo Programme and A Place to Heal. Fiona Arrigo is one of the foremost internationally acclaimed intuitive healers, a biodynamic psychotherapist, mentor and life teacher, and acknowledged as a leader in her field. In this week's Sunday Sanctuary, the topic is Right Here, Right Now. Fiona will invite you to consider the changes that are taking place, to examine the possibility of more spacious living from the inside out, with a focus on the importance of the right brain hemisphere connected to our creativity, intuition and imagination.
Good morning, everybody. And thank you, all of you. Thank you, Australia and Canada and Saudi. I really wanted to share my thoughts with you this Sunday on how we become more spacious human beings. And all these subtle shifts that are happening all the time, which has been going on, of course, forever. It's just that now we're being given the opportunity to sit in the great noticing. So things that I'm talking about, and many, many amazing teachers all around the world with their strong voices for these times, and wonderful musicians, wonderful teachers, all coming together. But what they're talking about is what has always been here, what will always be here. And yet within all this, there is a deep unfolding, and for sure, of what many of us know, we are in the paradigm shift. So this is affecting us on many, many levels. It affects our consciousness, our subtle fields. It affects our connection to the earth that we've spoken so much about over the weeks. It's affecting our emotions. It's affecting our brains. It's affecting our minds. We are being effective and affected. So it feels now, as we enter into week 6 in the UK of lockdown, it's not easy. I mean, I'm definitely feeling the tugs and the pulls and the heightened states and the deconstruction and the nervousness and the anxiety. It's all running through my body. But also, of course, I'm aware that there is just so much merit here right now. And some of us may be feeling a bit clunky, a bit despondent. And equally, some of us could be feeling good, clear, committed. As we talked about last week, we're all on different boats, having different experiences, but that they're all a connected one experience. So as I've said every week, I can really only share my own reflections with you. And I've been really deeply pondering on what does it mean to be more spacious, more intact, more light-filled as human beings. And how does this become tangible rather than a mental construct? And really feeling, again, over the weeks we've talked about turning our attention in and You know, so much of us is jangled in the here and now, and the left brain running. And even in lockdown, I wonder how much time we're really giving to ourselves to become spacious. And I feel this is very important. And of course, you and me are very young on this path. So lots of things I'm talking about, and things that you'll hear really amazing, great teachers talking about, we are growing into. So we're just setting the pathways for a new walkway for our lives. But a really important aspect of this Aquarian age, this eventually coming out of lockdown, if we can begin to harness the practices where we can become more spacious, intact, light-filled human beings, and also begin to notice that there is a physiological happening as well within this. And again, as I've said to you, we discussed, contemplated, you know, we've all been preparing for this, and all the work that we've done, and especially for all of us, I'm going to have a sip of my green juice just to prove the point. We've all been detoxing. And the detoxification is to kind of decalcify the physical structure so we can let more light in, so we can let more toxins go. And when I thought today about wanting to share this with you, I kind of felt my really deep vulnerability in this, because I want to talk to you about something that really has no words, and yet in how we're created on this planet for now, before we become spacious, telepathic, transparent human beings, we have to feed mind. We need to have roadmaps and understandings of where we're going. So I feel very vulnerable in trying to talk about this huge subject to you. But I know in my body that spaciousness is where we will get all the information for our future. And that we are, just by this time, just by this 2,100 years, just by Great Father Sky and Mother Earth coming home to each other, and all these massive astrological movements that are happening, we are coming in to this new paradigm. And if we step outside of all the stuff of why this virus is or not, and just keep going into the pure consciousness of this moment that is allowing us to get to know ourselves and each other, and to throw out clunky, not so useful patterns anymore, so we can lighten. And it takes time. I keep saying this, you know, life is patient. Life is kind. We have time to do this. And even in lockdown, you may find, I mean, I'm finding now, week 6, I can go slightly deeper into my practices. I'm beginning to do much more breath work. I'm beginning to do certain types of movement that I couldn't do in the first 5 weeks because other things were hitting my structure. But creating space so that you can begin to become more known to your energy, and clearing as many of our unconscious drivers as possible so we can lighten. And in that lightening, be more wholesome, walk more softly on our earth, be more present in our bodies. I spoke to you last week about, that all of this we've reached all our brownie points of dress rehearsal, and we've got to get right into our practice. And I cannot emphasize enough in the world that I'm looking at, and again, we'll all have different windows to look in through. But I can't emphasize enough that we are changing on every single level. We're becoming conscious of the sentiency of our earth, our Mama Earth. We're becoming conscious of the deconstruction of the old ways. And I believe that the inner planes, our guides, our protectors, our dakinis, are really firing arrows into our earth right now and deconstructing all this grid that has been holding us in place. And thus, of course, our economy has to be affected. Our people will be affected because we are in a radical shift of time and everything is going to be affected. So I really, really want to encourage you and myself to keep dropping into stillness and to keep dropping into silence, because this is where everything you need, all the information you need, everything you need is in the stillness and the silence. And if any of you are rejecting this by being busy and having so much to do and so many people to look after and so many places to go, I ask you tenderly to look at that and to look and to honestly, hand on heart, look at your resistance to drop. Because it occupies, it creates a whole different physiological, mental, emotional experience. And we have resistance. For many of us, dropping and being still in silence is actually scary. But this is where we are beginning to find new ways. This I know. This I do know. And as we drop into this stillness and dissolve, the old way of doing eases out, and this incredible natural state of being starts to come in all walks of your life. You are never more essentially, more deeply yourself than when you are still. And you'll have to travel through the layers of that, because in between stillness and brain is a whole lot of stuff. But I know in my deepest body that you are never more essentially yourself than when you are still. And in this stillness, in this new paradigm, this is where our futures are being created. In a way, right now, we are outside time, and nothing is predestined. Nothing. The future is now. So for this week, I've been feeling overwhelmed, in the awe, really, of looking at the massive cosmic theatre which I can see unfolding. And looking at COVID as this opportunity in this upside down occurrence. That we need to keep strengthening our commitments of inviting us in to ourselves. We need to go in. COVID said, go in. We must go into ourselves. As we travel through, what I've been speaking to you about over the weeks, this period of gestation, which is 2,100 years, this period of birth, a long, long time, and deeply reclaiming our worth, all those fragments, all those emotional orphans, all those parts that make you are worthy of this moment. And you are needed in this moment. And you are so loved. And life wants us to wake up. Life wants to go, here I am, I've been waiting for you. Turn your attention to notice me. This is a profound, profound movement. If enough of us do this, we come into more spaciousness, more new, more now, more new paradigm, more new earth, more new human. You know, it's true that lockdown may go on for a long, long time, and that might be making people feel really nervous. You know, my partner is 75, and oh, bless him, he may never come out. He may never come out. But we need to keep our energies. We need to keep working, and I cannot stress enough, I'm talking about this every week, we have to come out of divisive thinking. Push, pull, desire, aversion, pointing fingers, blaming, all this separate, dissolved, clunky thinking. I read somewhere, I think Shakespeare said, there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So we know, as Gary Zukav said, you know, a new consciousness is being born, and the old consciousness is dying. The new consciousness shows us ourselves, the world, and the universe in a whole new way. The old consciousness does not do that, but both are existing at the same time. So we have still so much of old paradigm, old world, and yet this embryonic new, this beautiful embryonic new is coming through. So to stay healthy, to stay honest, to stay truthful, to really cultivate wholesome values helps us in this time frame to become better people, and helps us to create a better world. It's a time filled with crisis, and it's a time filled with untold opportunity. A time when we are challenged, and a time when we are inspired. A time to elevate our consciousness, to create a world that we are proud to pass on, that we are really proud to pass on to our future generations. This is a moment of our evolution and capacity and potential to release. So we need to be doing our homework, all the old ingrained thoughts that have led us to feel, all these old ingrained thoughts, keeping us in this left part of our brain that makes us feel insignificant, powerless, versus feeling empowered and at home in yourselves and confident. You know, the old world has eaten us. It's not a bad thing. None of it is, this shouldn't have happened. It's all part of this wonderful wave of journey. But we've been eaten, and we've been separated. and we've been hurt and we've been cut off. And I do not believe for 1 minute that this is our birthright. I do not believe this is who we are meant to be on this earth. I can't answer. I could probably have a mental conversation about it, but it would just be a mental conversation of things I've read. I can't answer why that's happened. I just know right now, and through my own studies of these last 35 years, that how we've been living through this lens isn't what the offering was of our potential to be here now, and in the grace, in the absolute grace. And please feel this. We are being given through love a collective remembering of how to do it differently. That is such grace. And let that grace touch you. Let you feel that grace so deeply, because grace is forever present. It's just we've been so fast and furious and entitled and expectant and pressured and tensed and demanded of and forgotten that we've forgotten grace. We've forgotten love. And so now this is the time when we are spinning off all the old structures and all the old entanglement to be different. And the turning point in many of the turning points is choice. Where are you putting? What are you choosing? What are you filling with? What are you unfilling? Choice is a massive realization, and choice really is not so much the mind. This is where I'm trying to talk to you from. It's from our hearts. Our human being can choose to connect deeply. We can make choices. We have the capacity to choose in every minute. We have the capacity to choose and forge new ways. And right now, as this old world is being deconstructed, there really is no point of reference. And really there is nowhere to go but deep inside ourselves. Okay. Take a breath, everybody. Let me just look at you a bit more deeply, see where you are. Lots of you, I can't see your faces. We are very beautiful beings, and we've just forgotten how beautiful we are. It's such a truth. Just take a breath and maybe just put your hands on your heart as I'm speaking to you, and just feel that you have yourself, and that self is love, and you are loved. And we can allow ourselves to let go of all this stuff that we have been taught is real. We need space and time to notice what is new. You can't do this just by meditating or by doing yoga or by doing anything ritualistic. This will help, and these are amazing practices, and don't give up. But to get into this other place that we're talking about, you have to notice in yourselves what is new and give that energy. I started this conversation in India about new codes of living and how we need to turn our attention to different qualities of the self. And in fact, I am thinking about doing a 6-week course online, which I think will be every Saturday starting at the end of May. So do let us know in the chats if you're interested in any of that, of being part of that. And that is really to keep going deeper into understanding how we begin to notice what is new. And what can it possibly mean to be a new human being? And how can we come out of this divisive thinking into a reality that is more loving and more peaceful and more giving and more regenerative? And everything we know and everything we're seeing, and as the earth keeps breathing and pausing, as the planes stop shooting through the skies and the natural forces of her prana and her life energy starts to stream back, we see that life herself through nature is bountiful and regenerative. And we are, as we've discussed, so intrinsically connected to her that we are capable of switching into this rebirth of a more loving, more kind, connected way of life. But we have to begin by slowly being still enough to notice this. It is embryonic, it's so delicate and so beautiful. And so, equally so, as we grieve the world of what has happened, what is taking place, and what is moving out, we're also seeing this amazing step up of everything we see, of the hospital workers, the people that are putting the groceries on the shelves, the people that are delivering our boxes, the people that are clearing away our rubbish. There are so many people that are helping us. And what is also being established in between the deconstruction of this old fossilized holding way of thinking and keeping your attention far too much in one direction. It's challenging for me because I'm super dyslexic. So left and right, up and down is a whole. I was born to be abstract, I think. So even when I'm talking to you about the right brain and the left brain, I have to really think about it. But as we tune into hope, as we tune into faith, as we tune into love together, this is creating again a new field for us to be present and newly human on our earth. And we need to amplify this ourselves. How new human can we be in our day? What new choices to be can we be? How empty and spacious can we be to allow the new to come? The new cannot come so well, even though it will be present, because the earth and the celestial body is doing their work and we are being affected. But for us to be in flow and to be in grace around this newness, we need to keep referring back to emptiness and spaciousness. We are growing, I believe, a new field of the soul of the world. And this new soul is full of grace. you know, it was funny this week. I woke up, I've never had this before. Of course, I've had the everyday experiences of, you know, where did that time go? Or suddenly it's Christmas, or, you know, at the beginning of the year is suddenly the end of the year. And of course, I've done all that. But I had a direct experience. I woke up on Monday. I went through everything. I spoke to the people I speak to. I cooked lunch, I cooked dinner, I did. But I got to Thursday this week, and it was like the whole of time had been eradicated. There was no difference. There wasn't a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And it was like time itself was running behind, rubbing time out behind me. And I wasn't in floss, I wasn't in unmindfulness, I wasn't in overwork, I wasn't in anything. It was just, I had a completely different relationship to Monday and Thursday joined, and Tuesday and Wednesday completely and utterly disappeared. And I can't comment on that. I just noticed it. So again, in this new field that we're creating together, we are looking at how we bond, how we expand our relationships throughout the world to all our relations, how we can develop our care. We've looked at how we can be generous with our words, be generous in our actions, be aware of what you're thinking, what you are feeding yourself in your thoughts, and creating this field, this energy that you yourself want to live in. This is key. Creating this energy that you yourself wants to live in. This, I believe, is creating the quantum shift of change. And this will resonate a long time after the virus has vanished. So we need to be looking at how we can be in peace now. And peace can only exist in the present moment. It's not the past. It's not the future. It's not good or bad. It's being in the present moment. And spaciousness, in part, is losing the density of our conditioned structures, our mind constructs, our gnarled up, tight, taut, tense thinking processes into this energy of non-resistance, non-judgment, and non-attachment. We know, most of us know, that the brain and the heart coherence strengthens our immune system. What we're learning more and more from our intact ancestors, the beings of knowledge that have written into this present time, that anything that is interconnected heals throughout life. And so I was reading something the other day about how in 1991 it was discovered that the new brain cells actually existed in the heart. And I think, excuse me, I think that there was something like 40,000 activated cells that think and sense independently. And there's a really beautiful, I was listening to some of Greg Brandon's work this week, and he talked about this beautiful, beautiful word, Shanti Ishta, which means the single eye of the heart. How beautiful is that? Shanti Ista, the single eye of the heart. Oh, I love that. That just, even if, I've always used words as medicine, just even like love, simple, beauty, kind, as contemplations in my medicine basket. And this is a potent one. This is vibrationally so beautiful. Shanti Ishta. Shanti Ishta. And the ancients, like over 2,500 years ago, maybe longer, knew and said, this is practiced through everything, through the deep shamanic teachings, through the deep variations on Tibetan teachings, through the deep indigenous tribes. But all this is understood that life will change when thought, feeling, and emotion come together. When thought and feeling and emotion come together. So in the fragmented old paradigm, everything was disconnected. We didn't have that coherence. The coherence is only coming now. And so it's an amazing contemplation to think that we can change the world of matter through the beliefs and waves of the heart. This isn't new. I mean, Heart Maths has been talking about this for time. When we experience judgment and spitefulness and divisiveness and all that conditioning matrix that we've come under, and there's an absence of spaciousness, an absence of spatial relationship within the brain, actually, we drop into this ego, this mind, this selfishness, this one-pointed, this judgment, all this. And again, I don't want to talk about psychology. We've talked about that a bit in the past. We need primary egos, we need ourselves, we need the containers. The healthy ego is welcome. I'm talking about the parts that are harmful to ourselves. And it's interesting. Our hearts has no sense of fear or judgment. Shanti Ishta does not see division, good or bad, right or wrong. It's the marriage of our heart and our minds. And this gives us the power to transcend. So when you're busy and doing and robbing yourself in the thieves of time, all the blessings, everything that is there for you has always been there and always will be, you are missing. And life's knocking hard. Knock, 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 let me come in, I love you. Knock, knock, let me come in. Look at my trees. Knock, knock, let me come in. Look at my beautiful fish. Knock, knock, let me come in. Look at my stars. Open our hearts. Open our minds so that we can become spacious to be able to feel and understand a new language of love, a new language for this new human being. And also listening to Greg Brandon, he talks about a beautiful quality which I've been using. So we've done, so many of us has done the power of gratitude, and we know that when we come into a state of gratitude, our inner state changes. We know when we come into an inner state of gratitude, we flow. We have done these practices, but again, things now need to become embodied. So you begin to feel the space, you begin to feel the interconnection, you begin to feel the grace. And so Greg Brandon, and that we've practiced, I love you, please forgive me, I'm sorry, thank you. So gratitude, I love you, please forgive me, I'm sorry, thank you. And this beautiful thing that he said of, if we bless if we learn to bless continually the people who hurt us, to keep saying it only for a minute or for a moment, the verbal experience brings a change in the body and relieves the charge of judgment. But it brings a change in the body. It brings a change in the biochemistry. Gratitude, I love you, please forgive me, I'm sorry, thank you. And now let's bring in blessing. You don't have to be a priest or a pope or a high priestess or anything awkward. It's just, you've hurt me, I bless you. I'm upset, I bless you. You've done this to me, I bless you. You keep bringing in the blessings because it will alter the frequency of the body. And in time, in the great time, we have the potential to become a planet of prayer, where we look back up to the sky and let Great Spirit feed us. And we look down to the earth and we say thank you. And we look at each other and we know each other and we're able to pass through each other in this transparency because we've let go of clunk. This is a world not, imagined, but certainly known to me since I was a little girl. And the excitement is that we're beginning to share this now. And again, with the utmost tenderness and patience, we have time to become this. This isn't like waking up suddenly. It's the gentle realization of this continual movement in towards something else. And as we begin to make this journey into the something of something else, we begin to see the beauty in each other and the beauty in everything. And this is moving more into the right brain, more into spaciousness. And we begin to understand in this Edenic state of consciousness that we can thrive by our state of consciousness, that we can live in beauty by our state of consciousness, instead of just getting by. So many of us have been living that life of just getting by. We've been living in such a tiny construct of the endless capacity of our potential that has been offered now. Take a breath. Put your hands on your heart. And give yourself some space to come out of logic, being, is it true, isn't it true, anything. Just give yourself the space to luxuriate into something new, always present. So, we are being given time to listen deeply, to develop our intuitive self and to let that intuitive self lead. And in time, I believe, in order to come into this new quantum field, we will become more right-brained, more spacious, and therefore more present in what is here right now, letting go of the chatter of yesterday, of tomorrow, and having to do, and being in the stillness where we can begin to sense the formless existence, the formless essence in yourself and in the other, where we begin to hang out in relationship of our souls rather than this clunky, impatient, frustrated, angry, inelegant self. And all this, in my limited knowledge, remember I'm only intuitive and I can't be called on facts. I want to create a picture with love for you. But these qualities that we're talking about of spaciousness is where we feel through our connection into ourselves as being one human family, where this split starts to heal. So we need to zoom much more over into the right part of our brain to understand that, but actually we need to be much more into the consciousness. To be able to see that we are whole and life is beautiful. You know, we talk in the esoteric world about the good, the true, and the beautiful. This also happens when the third eye is open. And all this is also deconstruction of these holding patterns. And we know that the left brain thinks methodically. The left brain is about the past and the future. It's designed to help you pick up the details. I've got to go shopping. What do I need? It's focused on the external. It's an intelligence that keeps us focused to do. It also keeps us very lodged into I am, which is separate from the right, which keeps us in the flow of the energetic. And so as I believe we are going to become more abstract, more dream thinking, you know, the right brain traditionally is around art and music and creativity. It's also the power to dream, the power to imagine, the power to feel our energetics. All this is the activation coming through the right brain, as well as obviously the chakra system and the meridian system and the light body. So it's also about deep, deep peace, because the activity is not so necessary. We need to be there. We need to be present here, but to also, how can we be present in the present with more abstract, more room for creativity, more room for imagination, more room for spaciousness? And where does this take you? It's a good exploration to begin to think of what happens when we start to let go of the contractions that have filled our muscles. Everything. I really, really, really encourage you to keep breathing. I've said this last week and the week before. Do as much as you can of breath work. Do as much as you can of drinking water. You need to be releasing every day. Releasing, releasing. Dance, shake, move. Breathe, 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 release. So we can come into this softer, kinder, more tender way to be. It's a natural happening. It's not something that you have to force. You don't have to sit down and think with your left how you're going to get into the right. It's just the deconstruction as you breathe, as you abstract, as you create more stillness, as you create more space, that this comes to you. And it's the invitation to begin to choose this. This is the choice differentiation, is to allow yourself to choose something else for you. So I think this is where I've got to in my thinking of this week that I wanted to share with you. I feel this is very deep and totally important. And I really want to invite an allowance, an invitation back into an allowance where you can start to interact with your energy, being, awareness, to let something else come through you and to create spaciousness. We have the infinite power to generate love, to be beings of love, to be beings of space, to be beings in all these new walkways of life. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for connecting, calling in spaciousness, calling in present time, calling in this absolute purity of this moment now, here on earth. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, outside of normal everyday, being as you are, being as you are, being as you are. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to listen. If you enjoyed this episode, please do comment, like, subscribe and share so that we can collectively assist more people in these times. And for further information, social links and resources, please visit www.thearrigoprogramme.com. Until the next episode, be well and look after yourself. Sending you our blessings. Goodbye for now.